Hi everybody, thanks for coming to this webinar titled Increase Your Office 365 Margins with Online Backup. Today, I'm Guillaume Boisvert. I'm joined today with Nicolas Roy, who's a product specialist for online backup here at SherWeb.
Hello guys.
Today, we'll be talking about a few different things when it comes to backing up your Office 365. The first thing is the question that we get the most often, I think, and that's why you should back up your Office 365. I think it's the cloud. Isn't it magical? Isn't it unicorns and rainbows all the time? No. So we'll give you a few pointers as to why this will serve two purposes. One is to just for your information, but also will help you in your conversation with your clients about the security of their data in Office 365. Then we'll get to a demo that will be very practical. So we'll show you. The reason that we're here today is that we have some new exciting features in the online backup, the ability to back up OneDrive and SharePoint namely, but also we've extended some of the feature on Exchange Online. So we'll cover all that in a very practical demonstration. And then we'll talk a little bit more about why specifically SherWeb Online Backup. We're aware that there are a number of online backup solutions. We want to make sure that you make the right choice and come work with us. And then we'll get to your question. A few things about the webinar itself, talking about the Q&A. So if you have questions, there's a box in the software itself where you can put in your questions. We love questions. That's the best part of webinars, so don't hesitate. We may answer some of them as we go along, and we may keep some of them for the end. If we don't get to your question, don't worry. We'll contact you after the webinar to talk about it. Another thing is the webinar is being recorded, so if some of you have to leave, you'll get a recorded copy in the next couple of days, maybe Monday. So without further ado, I'm going to pass it on to Nick, who's going to talk a little bit about why people should back up their Office 365.
All right, thank you, Guillaume. So there's many reasons why we should back up Office 365. One of the main reasons is that Microsoft takes a part of the responsibility in terms of infrastructure resilience, natural disaster resilience, but they also cover us with short-term data recovery. Which is great. So, by default, you have 14 days retention in Exchange Online. But on the long-term retention, that is the customer responsibility. And that's why we suggest our partner to do backups of that data. It is also good to have a protection from the user errors and also protection from malware, ransomware, and also as we see now, nowadays, there's also cloud ransomware that starts to appear. So it is also something that we want to protect.
Yeah, it's good. It's a good question to ask yourself is how long does it usually take for somebody to realize they've made a mistake? For sure, there's a fair amount of them that will be within a second of doing it or a couple, like even a few hours. But then it's a bit of a weird curve where the other half of them are going to be like 20, 30 days, 3 months later. And some of the question that we get, and I don't know if you covered that a little bit further, is, well, yeah, there you go. Some of the examples that are bottom left of this slide are it's stuff that we've heard from partner, but people that leave their employment and before somebody realizes they need a file that John was working on like 6 months ago, the basic protection of Office 365 is just not enough.
Yeah, and as you can see in this particular slide is the different and the main reasons why data is lost. The main reason is accidental deletion. So many of the end users don't necessarily have the proper training on how to use the tools, or anyone can do a mistake also. Also, there's departing employees, as Guillaume mentioned. There's cyber attacks, malicious insider. You never know if someone has bad intention, if they can take your data. You need to protect that. So
yeah, when we talk about small medium businesses, malicious insiders is a lot more prevalent than cyber attacks. So cyber attacks, there's very little chance that you'll be targeted by a cyber attack. It may happen. I don't want to say, like, don't quote me on this legally. This is not legally binding opinion. It's just less likely that you'll be targeted by the Chinese state to infiltrate your network and things like that. But that a disgruntled employee would do something bad while they're leaving is much more common, or somebody abusing their privilege, things like that. We see a lot more of that.
So why Office 365 is a target? As you see, it's becoming a more and more popular application for SMBs and big corporations. So right now we have a couple of statistics around that. 91.4% of enterprises are using Office 365. Also, there's more sensitive data in OneDrive and SharePoint. And also, we can see that 58% of sensitive data in the cloud is in Office 365 documents. So it can really bring you to ask the question, should I protect that data?
Yeah, we see in the small medium business space, we see business being basically run in Office 365 more and more, like from very small business that are run between Excel and Exchange or Outlook, whatever, to people using Dynamics and whatnot. It's such a prevalent thing. These numbers come from a study done by Sky Network, which is a security software, and they're very relevant today.
So earlier we talked about malicious threat, and companies will face 2.7 threats in Office 365 every month. So that is also a bigger reason why you should protect your data. So if someone get inside the company and has access to a privileged user, well, you can face some serious consequences if you did not take the right protection. So, all right. So we have a couple of examples of if only we had backup. So as Guillaume mentioned earlier, an employee is fired and deletes some important files, emails. So no one necessarily knows which information he might have deleted. So it's only down in time after a couple months that we might say, hey, I think something important is missing. It is also a good way to show your customer with a real case what can be done for him. Also, a user granting permission to a third-party app. So I'm sure that many of you are using third-party apps. In the Exchange Online, there's many things that can be used, and it could just be something malicious that encrypt your whole mailbox. And if you don't have protection,
I've seen the proof of concept of that particular example. It wasn't in the wild yet. But it was proof of concept of a phishing email that basically installed a third-party app in Office 365 and then encrypted all the email and then asked for a ransom. Pretty scary stuff, but also very logical. Like it's very logical that what do they call them? Sorry, French and English mixing. So the people that are acting basically evil actors would target Office 5 just because of its popularity. You said 91% of companies have some kind of usage of Office 365. That just guarantees that it will be a target for years to come.
Yeah. So another example will be a compromised account with admin rights that deletes files from a SharePoint online,
Yep.
But it could go all the way through and really purge it from the mailbox, not the mailbox, but from the
site. SharePoint, to what you were saying, so the 14 days was, I think, was Exchange specific. There's also retention on SharePoint, but there's two things. One, same problem, like you realize too late that it's gone and you would like to have it back, can't. But the other thing is, even if you're 5 minutes later, you have to contact Microsoft support to get files back from the SharePoint sort of safety net. And I'm assuming most of our partners that are here today have dealt with Microsoft support at some point in their life. I'm assuming that's something you want to avoid just because of delays and aggravation and the time it will take to manage it. They'll get it done, don't get me wrong, it'll be fine, but the difference between having to deal with support, it takes the time that it takes, and just having it going to the SherWeb Online backup control panel and restoring a file, which takes 30 seconds, 2 minutes. We'll see it in practice. That also shows a lot of value to your clients.
Yeah. So now we'll go ahead and start with a demo. Just give me a second. I will start off from our Cumulus portal. So as you can recognize, that's where you would log in and see all your different customers. So I'll go ahead and click on the online backup button to open the portal. And you will see that adding an organization and putting in place the backup schedule is really something that can be done in a few minutes. You can save a lot of time by using some features that will show. So, all right. So the first thing that you want to do is normally you want to add a new agent. So you'll just go into devices, go on the top right and click on add. From there, you're going to have multiple options, and you want to go click on the Microsoft Office 365 for Business. After you click on that, you'll receive a prompt from Microsoft so you can log with your global admin credentials. So here I have my account, and you will be asked to accept different permission. As you can see, this will provide the online backup service, the right to read, write, site collections, access mailbox to different groups and users. So then we'll accept, and you'll see it will take just a few seconds, and all the group, site collection, and end user will appear in our console. So as you can see, here it's done. So I can click X. So I have my company here, the bread company. So we have the groups. You can click expand that. We have the site collections, and we also have all the different users in the company.
Is it the bread company because they make bread, or they make a lot of money?
No, they make a lot of money.
Oh, okay. It's a money company. That's good.
Exactly. So there's different type of backup that we can do. So just to give you a quick summary, we can do backup of the Exchange Online mailboxes. We can do the SharePoint Online and the OneDrive. So I'll go ahead and start with the mailboxes. So there's two different ways we can do backup in general with the new features. So you could do a group backup or a more granular backup. So a group backup will actually do a backup of all the different users, or if it's a site, it will cover all the sites. So I'll just go ahead and start with a granular backup. So I will select 5 users, conference room, all right, and I will create a new backup plan for them. So go create new. So as you can see, the first thing I want to do is give a name to my backup plan. So I'll go for my sales team in this case. There could be a different option for the end user. That's where you could also choose to do the OneDrive backup, but we'll go with the mailboxes for this example. So there's only one location where you can do the backups. It will be the cloud storage. There's no local backup for that feature. The schedule is going to be once a day. The API from the service and Microsoft will sync once a day and send the information. You can choose the retention, so you can choose the amount of days, months, and weeks that you want to keep your different backup. You can also choose not only by age, but you can go and choose the number of backup or keep indefinitely. Then you can choose to backup or not the archive mailbox. So simply toggle the button, and then you can choose to encrypt the backup as well. There's different size of keys for your encryption. Just keep in mind that if you encrypt a backup, you're the only one with the key. We don't have the password. So if you lose it, we cannot help you.
Yeah, which is the only way to do encryption properly. So if SherWeb or the technology provider were able to decrypt your backup, then really this encryption wouldn't mean much. The idea is you create the key, you encrypt your backup, and the key is the only key. If you lose the key, you have to start over. There is no alternate route, solution, secret passageway behind like the scene there. That's it. If you lose encryption, you lose encryption. Quick word on retention. Those backups are incremental, meaning that we only back up the difference in data every day, meaning that increasing the retention doesn't increase that much the space that is used. It's something for you to play with, but you do have the freedom to pick your own schedules and all that, which is not the case with all provider. Yeah,
right? So as you can see, just clicked on the apply button. What it does, it will change the status to backup schedule. So by default, as I mentioned earlier, the backup are synced once a day. As you can see here, there is going to be the next backup with the hours. So that will be in 2 hours approximately, or this afternoon. But you could also alternately click on run now if you want to do it right away. So this will actually start the backup for these specific users. I'll go ahead while it's running and just show you how to do a group backup for the sites. So if you go into site collections, I'll just select the group backup up in here, create a new plan. So we'll change the name for the demo. All right, so all the same different options. So we'll go ahead and back up all the items in the SharePoint sites, and then click apply. One thing to mention with the group backup, you cannot use the run now button. This is one of the, not limitation, but that's just how it works. They will sync on the next backup time. So we're back here. We can see the status for backup on the users are done. So there's 2 ways that we could find the backup for the user. So we could either click on the user and go in recovery, and then we would have our recovery point from which we could click on recover. But I'll also show you the other path of going in the backup tab on the left side. So from there, you're going to have a Microsoft Office 365 backup. You want to click on it. So I will search for my sales team demo. So as you can see, if you give names to different schedule, it's really going to be easier to manage backup if you're searching for specific users or a group of people. All right, so I'll go ahead and click on one of them and show you what it looks like. So I have my recovery point. There's going to be 2 ways to recover the mailboxes. So the first one would be recovering the entire mailbox. So I'll just click on it. As you can see here, I have another Office 365 tenant in my online backup license. So that's one of the features that I wanted to showcase. So we have the bread company, but I had the plastic mold. So one of the things, if you have customers with multiple tenants, they can do cross-organization restore or backups. So you can apply schedule on all of those. So I'll just go ahead and recover 2 mailbox. So by default, it's going to be the user of the mailbox, but you can also send that entire mailbox to another user or a group. So let's say someone left the company, you could send them all the stuff they had. And then you can just click on start recovery. You can choose to overwrite or not the existing item. So in this case, I'll just click on proceed and I will let it run. And the other way to do the recovery will actually be to click on recovery items. And from there, you're going to have the option to really search and find for the different items in the mailbox. You can do emails, you can do contact, calendars, and also tasks. So there is really a lot of options. So you can see here, the mailbox was recovered. So it only took a couple of seconds. So I'll go ahead and click on that backup again. And this time I will recover email messages as an option. So this will open the browser. So as you can see here, we have all the different files and folders from the mailbox. We can click on the different messages. And when you see the attachment, that will mean that there's going to be something that you can download. So I'll just show the content. So you can see the full email. You can also click on the attachment to download it, as you can see here.
Yeah, basically you can just browse your archive, really, like you would browse your mailbox.
Yeah, exactly.
Except you can go back in time. We can see on the, well, we can't see on the left because you only have one instance of that backup, but on the left, you would have the whole list of all the snapshots that were taken. So I could go to a year ago and see the inbox, or see the mailbox as it was a year ago, and browse through it.
Exactly. If you have the right retention set up,
yeah,
that will be the case. Exactly. So then when you found the item that you wanted, there is going to be two ways to recover it. So you could either send as an email. So you could send it to another user, to the same user, as we said earlier. So you can choose the recipient, choose a sender, and add a message if you want.
Talking to a partner, that's the thing that I've seen. That's what gets used most often. So for sure, backups of Office 5 is a security blanket. For a lot of people, it's a compliance issue. They have to have it. And then other people, they just want to make sure they do. But most of the recoveries are things like that, where, hey, I had that email. I know I had that email yesterday. I think Office 5 ate it. Can you send it back? Can you get it back for me? And the partner will go, we'll do a quick recovery. We'll send it as an email. And then he looks pretty good to his client.
Yeah. And then you could just click on the recover button. And as earlier, you could choose to recover it directly in the mailbox. So there's going to be a recovered item file that's going to be created in the custom location by default, but you could also choose the original location if you prefer. And then you could just click on start recovery, and as earlier, choose to overwrite or not the items. So that covers it for the mailboxes. I'll go back in my devices. So as I mentioned earlier, yesterday I did add another tenant, and as you can see, I did all the backups for the SharePoint and also for the groups. So for the groups, you can back up either the site, the group sites, or the mailboxes of the groups. For the sites, you can only do the site, the SharePoint site backup. And for the users, you can do either the Exchange Online or the OneDrive. So I'll go ahead and show you how we can recover the OneDrive portion of it. So as you can see here, there's going to be three types of files. So this will be for a site. The file is for OneDrive, and then when you go down, you would have the mailbox. So it's really easy to go around and see exactly what you want. So I'll go ahead and click on one of the OneDrives, show backups, and then there's going to be two options after you selected your recovery point. So you can either recover the entire OneDrive or the files and folders, so you can really go in and dig for what you want. So as earlier, the entire OneDrive, you choose the organization that you have. In most cases, the customer will have only one tenant. So it's really just for showcase purposes. If you have customers that have two tenants, it can be useful. So I just want to make sure I mentioned it. But in most cases, it will always be the default tenant. And then you can recover to the drive of the default user or any other user. So it's really a good way if someone leaves the company or for some reason needs to have a copy in the other OneDrive to transfer the files, and then you can choose to recover the sharing permissions or not, just by clicking on the toggle, and you have the start recovery. And as earlier, you can choose to overwrite or not the files, and that's it for this. So I'll go ahead and show you the exciting part, which is the browser. So when you click on the file and folders, the browser will open. And as you can see, we actually access the backup of that OneDrive, and we have access to the different files. You can click on the file. You can see the different versions. So here I made my backup yesterday. So there's only that one version, but in time you're going to have more version of those files. And then you could just recover directly to the OneDrive. You could create a new custom location or take the original location.
We have a question I think would be pretty good here. What would be the difference in experience if you had used the encryption? I'm assuming these weren't encrypted, those backups. What would be the difference if you had encrypted them?
So if it was encrypted, every time that you either need to do the recovery or access this piece of the browser, you'll be asked to put in the password to access the backup.
Somebody that doesn't have the password wouldn't even be able to see this, right? The list of files and their name and everything.
Exactly.
Yeah,
So
it wouldn't get there.
No, exactly.
Okay. But after that, you don't have to put it in every time, like every file or something like that. Like they ask you once.
Yeah, it will ask you once when you connect in the browser. Then you can just simply download also the file. So you see here, we have the PowerPoint. We can actually open it. Really easy to use. Oh. So just to show you how it works. And then finally, we'll have the SharePoint recovery. So basically I have my SharePoint here, backup. I will just click on show backups. There's going to be only one option for this one, so it's going to bring you the browser as well. So we have our team site. I want to click on that. So depending on what you want to recover, so here I'll just go ahead and recover the team gallery. So we can see here we have multiple files. Yes, I want to recover everything. So just as earlier, we have the same option, so you can recover to a different site. You can recover to a group site as well. So then you can choose to recover or not the sharing permissions. Then I'll start the recovery. I will overwrite an existing file if it's older, and I'll click on proceed. So as you can see, this is a demo environment, so it will take a couple of seconds, but there's still data. It's a real site. Then I don't know if we have any questions regarding the process of the backup, the recovery. If there's something that someone wants to get covered, I could show it while we're in there.
Just one question that I think would be relevant here is and it might be different answer for both. So for OneDrive and or for SharePoint, can you download the file? Like you showed download, but it was from OneDrive. Can you do it from SharePoint as well?
Yes, you can do it from SharePoint as well. I'll go back in there.
I think they believe you.
Okay. All right. So without further ado, we'll get back to
I think the other question we get often, we didn't get it here, but I'll ask it anyway. For SharePoint, does it back up just the file, just the content, or does it back up the site itself? Like if I recover a site, like a website made in SharePoint, would it recover the whole site, or is it really just about the files themselves?
So basically, it will back up the site collections and the subsites. There is some elements that will not be backed up, but there's a specific list of it that's accessible to you in our documentation.
Okay, so I think that's something the partner should look at if they start backing up SharePoint, and if it's not just site, like if it's just not files, the files for sure are covered. But if you're curious about the other thing, like if you have workflows or lists or whatever, you should ask your account representative for that list and specifically look if what you expect to be backup is on that list. Most things are, but it can be good to take the time.
Yeah, exactly. So we'll keep going. So why SherWeb online backup? So that's a good question. There's many reasons. One of them is that we want to help you partners to differentiate your offer. So here we have a little table with an offering of Office 365 as a standalone. So we'll go quickly over this. You have your standard pricing, your client pricing. Let's say you sell Microsoft MSRP. You'll have your margins will be around 5.8% in this specific case. You have a certain split between Business Premium and Business Essential in that case.
This is all using standard partner pricing and USD, right? US dollars.
Yeah, exactly. That's in USD also. Good point. So one thing that we want you to be able to do is talk to your partner, to your customers, and bring the idea that the backup is important, because it is. And one thing that it will do for you is increase the average revenue per user. Now, here we did a scenario with 3 different customers, and we added our 10 gigabytes backup package for the $1, and we added the 1 gigabyte that comes with our free bundle since October. So for the business premium and business essential, which are eligible for that 1 gigabyte. And then with the scenario, as you can see, this increased your revenue and nearly double your margins, as we'll see in the next slide. So really, when you do the comparison, it's really good for you because, for the time that you invest for every of those partners, those clients, you will have way more to benefit from.
And we've talked about this with a number of partners, and it's also the feedback that we get. But the sort of the nice thing here, or the thing to remember, is this is just the SKU, like the difference that the SKU will make. And like you already have 90% increase in margin, that's not negligible. Like that's just money on top of clients you already have. But the thing to remember is we usually try to get our partners, and a lot of them are already doing it. We're not reinventing the wheel, but to sell managed backups rather than to sell SKUs of amounts of gig. For sure, the amount of space that they can have and they can back up will be part of the conversation. But at the same time, if you can move that to have the conversation around managed backups, which is what we have here, that's really where the most of the difference will go, and you'll get some of the other advantages around churn prevention and things like that.
Yeah, so many of the partners to who we talked, they add managed backup in their managed services by default because they think this service is essential to running the SMBs. And
yeah, I think if you ask most partner, managed backup is part of managed services. Like if you don't do backups, then what do you do exactly?
Exactly. So since that's already in the managed services bundle, they would just add the different pricing for the actual product. But if you don't include the managed backup fees by default, we really we want you to consider to add them to your offering.
Yeah.
Because that's really something that can help you first provide better value for your partner, your customer, and there's some services that they will actually need. And just to give you an idea, we put down some of the services that could be included in managed backup. To give you an example, so there could be the initial assessment, so that will be the data assessment, asset discovery, initial implementation, data migration. So what does the customer currently has? What will be needed? Which asset do we need to keep the data from?
Yeah, we insist, and successful partners have shown it, propensity to do it, is that you want to be part of strategic conversation. So as backup, the backup itself is just doing the backup and doing the recovery is not necessarily part of a strategic conversation. It's strategic to the company. You have to have backup, but the really strategic conversation is part of the initial assessment, which is where's your value as a company? Like what is valuable? And then they'll talk about like, oh, it's our line of business application, it's our plan, it's IP that we write, it's the programming plans for our CNC machines. Like it can be a million things. But that's the strategic conversation, is identifying what's actually the value of the company, and then the security of those assets. And that's more than just backup, but we're talking about backups today. But definitely the ability to recover if they get into any kind of trouble. That's the strategic conversation.
Yeah, so that will be also included. A portion of that will be included in the managed backup, and also if they, that opens the door to DR or for specific applications that they are critical to the business.
It's disaster recovery, right?
Yeah. Then just to give you an idea of how the actual agent works, so when the agent is deployed, it's not on the machine, it's really in the cloud. So it speaks with the Microsoft data center. They will sync once a day. So there's really nothing that you need to do on the premise. So that's really good for you. You can save time. You can deploy it from your own location and do everything with the global admin credentials. So
yeah, and one thing of note is that won't use the client's bandwidth also. Like we've been asked that question, and it may seem obvious, but because it's a cloud-to-cloud service, it will go directly from Microsoft to our data center to store the the files. So that doesn't touch your client basically. So even if they have the world's slowest internet connection because they're in the sticks somewhere, it'll still work fine.
All right. So earlier I mentioned the possibility to use the group backup. One of the main features of the group backup is that if you do a group backup for users, sites, or groups, they will actually keep applying the plan to the new users that you will add in time. So you don't need to go in, add the user every time. So it's a really great functionality for you to protect all the users all the time and save a lot of time.
And I think that was so adding SharePoint to OneDrive is the most requested feature. This was the second most requested feature, is that you could just do all user and it means all users. So if there's a new user, he's in it.
Also, we did not go in depth in it in the demo, but the quick search really can give you different possibilities. So you can really search by date, search with subjects, you know, if you have an attachment. So basically find whatever you're looking for your customer really easily and efficiently. Then we'll have, you know, the solution supports Office 365, but it also supports all the other solution that it was already doing. So it's just a little way to show you guys that you can also implement that in the solution that you propose to your customers.
It's one of the advantages that that people are happy about, is that they can use a single solution to do all those things. So a lot of our partners will get started with us on just Office 365, and then as they go, they'll grow and they'll have more things. Virtual servers, or even application like SQL, even stuff like mobile, like cell phones. They're all supported by that same solution. Different agents, obviously, but just one portal to manage them all, and that's the real gain and the simplicity that it brings.
It is also good, worth mentioning that G Suite is going to be also included in the supported endpoint. So stay tuned for that, but it should be during the summer.
Actually, next couple of weeks, it will start being deployed. So if you're looking to start working with SherWeb for G Suite, which we have more and more people that are doing it, you'll be able to have that same offer that includes backups as part of that solution.
All right, so just to recap, there's many good advantages to use that solution with SherWeb. The first one is we really want our partners to differentiate their offer. So one good way to start doing that will be to use the free bundle that you have, to the free gigabyte, and onboard your customers.
So, yeah, I don't know if everybody knows that. We didn't touch on that. I knew you had it later, so I didn't mention it. But if you buy one of the main SKUs of Office 365, I won't name them all, but pretty much everything like Business Premium, E3, whatever, with SherWeb, you get a gig of online backup included in that seat. So if you have 10 seats, you have 10 gig. They're pooled, so you can use them for whatever you want. Our suggestion today is obviously, why not to start backing up your Office 365? But really, that is a great value of our, that is a great way that our that our Office 365 is different than most, is without any additional fee. And then feel free to charge your client. I encourage you to charge your client, but without an additional fee to you, you can get started on those backups.
Yeah. There's also the scenario that we showed you. You can increase your margin easily by adding one of those bundles queue for $1. Also, there's another possibility if you want to go as a pay-as-you-go way of doing things. So you can also talk to your account manager about it if you want to find out a strategy and create a special offering. That will be the way to go. And also, don't forget to include your managed backup services in your managed services as a whole, or make sure that you charge for that because your time is worth something. Also, you benefit from SherWeb support 24/7, so you can reach out to us. We'll help you if you have questions about deployment, if there's technical questions, or if you have issues with some of the features, we'll be there for you. Also, as we showed, the solution is super easy to use and deploy. You don't need to do a whole certification. You can set up a tenant, back it up in just 5 minutes, and everything will be done automatically, and then you can use it to recover. It is simple to manage. So As we mentioned, new users will be added automatically. You can quick search for what you want. And then you can back up all your workload from one single console. All right, so what are the next steps now? So it's time to get started. First off, we really encourage you to start enabling organization with Office 365 free bundle. It's already there. Just start using it, and your customers can go from, if they don't use backup, actually, it's a great way to not just get them on Office 365 backups, but also then bring maybe some important workload that they may not consider. Also, you can try our online backup NFR offer for your own organization, so you can talk to your account manager about it. It's a great way to also try it for yourself and do some testing.
So NFR being not for resale, partners that want to use our services before they sell them or just get more familiar or whatever, they get a heavy discount on pretty much all of our products to use for their own organization. So something to consider for sure.
Yep. So as mentioned, get in touch with your account manager, talk to them about your project. They'll be more than happy to answer your question and help you set that up. And then soon available, we'll have video guides on how to deploy the online backup. So what we did today. So you just have access to a copy of that. All right. So is there any questions that we can answer? Or anything that is not clear?
Let me check. We got a number of questions. A lot of them were very specific to specific clients' cases. So somebody asked, I think that's, we might have answered that, but somebody asked if the stuff that you showed around Office and SharePoint and all that, that's available now, or that's coming in the next version?
That is available now. So
okay, it's good. So no excuse, get started today. No, I think we've answered the rest of the questions that were applicable to everybody.
Okay, there's one last thing that we want to talk about, and maybe Guillaume, if you want to jump on that one.
No, yeah, sure. So as a partner, you may have been there last year. This is the third year. We're doing again a nice cloud summit called Accelerate. It'll be in Montreal, October 10th and 11th. It's a great time to come to Montreal in the fall. It is not a SherWeb sales conference. Like, it's not to convince you to buy our products or anything like that. There's a lot of great talks, great speakers from SherWeb, but also a number of them that aren't from SherWeb. Stay tuned for the keynotes, speaker, and everything. That's actually very interesting stuff. If you want to have more detail, just go to sherweb.com/accelerate. I wouldn't miss it personally.
No.
But
it's also a great opportunity to meet with your account managers.
Yes.
And
come talk to us, actually give us feedback on our products. So here's the plan. You start using online backup for your Office 365, you make it a great success, and then you come in October and give us the feedback directly. Me and Nick I'll be there for sure because I'm talking. Nick will probably be there as well. So it'll be a great time for you guys to come and give us some feedback.
All right, so I believe that's all for today.
So I want to thank everybody for coming out. This was great. We went pretty quickly over everything. If you need more help, if you want to get into that NFR program, please just talk to your account manager. They'll be happy to help you. They know online backup really well. And we look forward to seeing you in the next webinar. Thank you.